We are engaged.
First, marry for money, then marry for love, once said Alva Vanderbilt Belmont, referring to her own life and marriages. Well, she obviously knew it better, since it was her daughter, the fabulously beautiful Consuelo, who one day married into British nobility of the highest rank and became the renowned Duchess of Marlborough. I believe their fascinating life stories became the plot inspiration for the now booming third season of the Gilded Age series by HBO, written by the famous Julian Fellowes, the author of the Downton Abbey.
I cannot believe this.
The wedding of the century, the daring, unheard of New York polite society sensation, one of the most brilliant American dollar princesses. On paper. In this video, I will uncover the real details behind this wedding ceremony.
Congratulations, my dear. It's sure to be the wedding of the year.
I mean to make it the wedding of the century.
Many videos on my channel are dedicated to the intriguing real-life figures of the American Gilded Age, whose personalities stand behind the now popular series. Of course, there is a particularly detailed piece about Consuelo Vanderbilt, the quite plausible prototype of Gladys Russell from the series.
I will not criticize Mrs. Russell for her only virtue. At least she keeps her daughter under control.
Under arrest, more like.
So, briefly, Consuelo was born in 1877, when her parents, William Kissam and Alva Vanderbilt, were already rich, yet still far from being fully accepted in the high society of New York. Nevertheless, her mother had a clear vision of how they would make it up to the top and how she could use the charming looks of her daughter to secure that position for them. Much like Bertha Russell does, right?
The marriage is a real opportunity. Do you want us to stop our daughter becoming one of the most famous women of her generation?
Perhaps Alva Vanderbilt had a particular example of a successful marriage to follow after. Her close, some say best friend, Consuelo Iznaga, married an English aristocrat who was soon to inherit the title of the Duke of Manchester, and hence she would become the Duchess. Alva even named her daughter with the same Spanish name. No wonder the title of the Duchess was also in her strategic plans.
If she does marry him, what will your title be?
Why would I have one?
Well, there must be something you call the mother of a duchess.
One lucky woman.
She made sure the girl received the most appropriate education for the future position. Consuelo was well-traveled, fluent in French and German, studied history, literature, mathematics, Latin, and science, took music lessons and physical exercises in Central Park. They said that Alva even ordered creation of a steel brace to run from Consuelo's forehead to her waist to ensure correct posture, and indeed the girl was often praised for her regal carriage. A great beauty, she was already one of the greatest heiresses in America.
In short, you think me quite foolish.
I think you give these matters more importance than they're worth. But I confess I admire your spirit.
Alva did everything she believed would help Consuelo live a fulfilling life of an English duchess, and as one of the most rich women in America at the same time, set the standards of the new epoch and even changed the world. Why not, right? Well, at least that's how they imagined a prestige and ultimate female happiness back in the day.
You've put her in this position.
A position that will make her the envy of every woman living.
And to make her life a misery. Is that what you want?
They showed it brilliantly in the Gilded Age series. All those numerous suitors from both sides of the Atlantic, the lavish debutante ball, the youthful passions of the young heiress, and then there was this unbelievably controversial marriage with the Duke, the triumph of mother, which turned a dreadful tragedy for the daughter. Knowing how it all happened with Consuelo Vanderbilt, I think they even downplayed it in the series. And here is why. Well, the story of how they secured the Duke in the first place is again covered in my video about Consuelo's life.
It's true that he's coming to New York. It's true that I've arranged some parties for him. What else can I tell you?
The sealing of a deal was a particularly difficult task, aggravated by the bitter fact that Alva herself was a scandalized divorcee. And this is one of the major differences with the flow of the show. You see, in real life, the wedding happened in 1895, while in the series, Fellows placed the events a decade earlier, in 1884. In addition, not only Consuelo had another love of her life, as she thought then, she was even secretly engaged to the guy, and they tried to elope.
Miss Gladys has decided to use this time to rest before the event. When she feels she has rested enough, she will come down. Thank you.
As long as she isn't planning another escape.
Well, the Duke himself was in love with someone else. History saved the name of Consuelo's unfortunate suitor, and here I cite myself from the past. It was some Winthrop Rutherford, ex in her memoirs, with whom she reconnected soon after her marriage. He was a well-connected New York socialite whose mother was a member of the wealthy land-owning Stuyvesant family, but that obviously wasn't enough for Consuelo's mother, herself the daughter of a cotton broker.
I hesitate to pull rank, but my great-grandfather signed the Declaration of Independence. What were your ancestors doing then, I wonder?
The young couple was much in love, and nothing seemed to stop them from being together. So eventually, when Winthrop proposed and Consuelo happily accepted, Alva became furious. She locked Consuelo in her room, invented a story that there is madness in the Rutherford family and that he can't have children, and when that wasn't enough, announced that she would shoot a Rutherford if they eloped. To support it, Alva evidently faked the suffering from a near-fatal heart attack. The last thing worked. Consuelo was still a good girl and loved her mother.
Dear Father, I love you. But as you said earlier, we're past the point of no return.
How do you like this sort of cold-blooded manipulation, huh? Those who were shocked by Bethel Russell's behavior in the series remember that Alva Vanderbilt went much further.
Rushing her into it does not seem right.
George, I don't expect you to understand this because you're not a woman, but I am trying to empower her.
I considered I had a right to choose my own husband. These words, the bravest I have ever uttered, brought down a frightful storm of protest. I suffered every searing reproach, heard every possible invective hurled at the man I love, Consuelo confessed later.
You must come down eventually.
Or what? You'll dress me by force and drag me to the church in chains?
And what about the Duke? Who forced him into this wedding in chains? Well, in this case, it was rather what, not who. Charles Richard John Spencer Churchill, 9th Duke of Marlborough, himself had to obey the duty imposed by his title. It was made pretty clear by his grandmother Fanny, the 7th Duchess, that he really needed to save Blenheim Palace, the grand family estate. So he basically sacrificed his life to save it. Well, at least this worked. The influx of Consuelo's fortune, which was rumored to equal something like $4 billion in today's value, allowed him to restore Blenheim to the glory that the great house still exhibits today. In fact, that was a rather popular way of sorting out your financial problems back in the day, although this strategy is sometimes valid even today, I suppose.
The matter is simple. Do you want to live as lavishly as most reigning princes? In short, do you want to save Sidmouth Castle and have plenty of money to spare?
Indeed, over 100 American heiresses made transcontinental marriages from 1880 to 1920, and some accounts say there were over 300 stories of this kind. Julian Fellows explained that in Europe, to get an heiress, you need everyone else in the family to die, making European heiresses rare. But American heiresses proliferated because they could be created whenever a rich person divided his wealth among the children. In Marlborough case, it was later revealed that the Duke received $100,000 yearly. It's around $3.2 million today, as well as $2.5 million in railroad stock. Today, that would be around $81 million.
Surely you can understand how much it takes to keep these great houses afloat.
I do understand, but that is my final offer.
So the cover picture looked as glossy as possible. To the curious crowds, Consuelo Vanderbilt's engagement to Marlborough seemed the ultimate fairy tale. The real picture of how it all happened was somewhat less fancy, to say the least. On 6th of November 1895, huge crowds gathered outside St. Thomas's Episcopal Church at 5th Avenue and 53rd Street in Manhattan. No wonder the proud mother made everything to drive everyone's attention to the event. Right after the engagement, which happened a couple of months prior to the ceremony, she leaked the news to the press right away and continued to feed information to the papers about everything from Consuelo's gown to the gold fastenings on her undergarments in order to build public excitement in the lead-up to the wedding.
The wedding gown is in the evening paper. I thought you would be interested.
Mrs. Russell won't like that.
Are you mad? She probably delivered it herself.
And at the very same hour, Consuelo was locked in her bedroom under intense watch in case she tried to run away. I spent the morning of my wedding day in tears and alone. No one came near me. A footman had been posted at the door of my apartment, and not even my governess was admitted. The Duke himself arrived late for the ceremony after last-minute negotiations to squeeze more from the Vanderbilt fortune. In the end, the wedding was delayed for 20 minutes as Consuelo had been crying so much that her eyes swelled up.
Bertha, are you sure this will turn out well?
You've been saying that since I was 3.
And has it turned out well?
Look around you.
I might say the same.
Yet at least one person had the moment of her life. Alva Vanderbilt had all the right, in her own eyes, to celebrate the occasion. Those crowds outside the church were a testament to the success of her strategy.
I pray you're right about this.
George, our daughter is about to be the Duchess of Buckingham. At one time, that would not have seemed likely. Let me enjoy it.
However, as it often happens, rumor has it, the polite society wasn't blind when it came to some roasted details of personal life of its members. This way, in their dispatch from the nuptials, the New York Times published a cartoon satirizing the wedding. They showed Consuelo kneeling next to the Duke on Cupid's coffin, with her hands handcuffed behind her back and attached to a chain, being held by her mother. As if that wasn't enough, the priest's eyes are tightly covered with a cloth. Let's pretend no one, even God, notices the true nature of this marriage.
I hope she knows what she's doing.
Nobody knows what they're doing when they get married.
At the same time, the decorations set for the spectacle were truly breathtaking. The same New York Times called the inside of a church a fairyland. The florist and his assistants worked diligently for days, wrote the reporter. There was hardly an inch of stonework or an inch of woodwork that was not concealed by delicate and graceful vines and bunches of vari-colored blossoms, lilies, roses, alpine violets, and chrysanthemums. The prestigious Vogue dedicated almost an entire issue to the event and its corresponding fashion highlights. No trousseau ever made in America has excited such interest in the world of fashion as the one designed for Miss Vanderbilt, now the Duchess of Marlborough, they wrote. Vanderbilt's wedding gown was made of ivory and lace, then a costly and rare material. Her head was adorned with a coronet of orange blossoms. Afterwards, Alva Vanderbilt held a breakfast reception for 115 guests of the couple, and the crème de la crème of the polite society showed up, despite her being what could have been considered a pariah, a divorced woman, remember?
If only we could have avoided it.
What nonsense, Mama. Curiosity alone would have you sleeping on the sidewalk to get a good seat.
I shall dedicate my next Gilded Age video to the phenomenon of divorce in the era. In the entrance hall were arranged a double line of tall palms, the tops of which reached the ceiling. The New York Times were raving. The inner hall, which is reached by a flight of 5 steps, was decorated with 3 ferns imported expressly for this decoration. The staircase was covered in asparagus vine, orchids and roses. An ocean of flowers, a perfect way to conceal the ugly side of the feast, known only to signing parties of the fabulous deal.
The carriage has arrived.
What a relief. People were starting to look anxious.
They'd look more anxious if they knew the truth.
These awful English marriages tie you tight and strangle you in a noose when you try to pull away from them. The Gilded Age author Edith Wharton wrote in 1937 in her unfinished novel The Buccaneers. The theoretically idyllic marriage of Consuelo Vanderbilt and the 9th Duke of Marlborough wasn't a happy exception. I'm sure you heard the saying that familiarity breeds fondness, or in other words, you'll get used to it. Didn't work neither for Consuelo nor for the Duke. Or has it ever worked for anyone, I wonder? Despite all the orchestration, this marriage of convenience was a failed one. Later in her life, the American Duchess of Marlborough published a scandalous memoir, The Glitter and the Gold. And there were definitely an abundance of those, covering the harsh reality of the otherwise seemingly fabulous marriage.
Don't you feel ashamed?
I hope that when you come to know me better, you'll agree that what I'm trying to preserve is worth preserving.
Well, at least, just like Alva dreamt of, she became quite successful and a popular figure in England in her role of a high-ranked duchess. For example, in 1902, Consuelo was one of 4 duchesses chosen to bear the canopy of Queen Alexandra at the coronation of Edward VII.
A great heiress, destined to be a society leader. Doing good, I hope. But doing it in public.
Yet what exactly happened to Consuelo and the Duke? How she got connected to Winston Churchill and Lady Diana Spencer? Was she able to find her true love again? And did she ever forgive her notorious mother? You will learn everything about it in the second part of my video dedicated to the life of perhaps the most famous American dollar princess from the Gilded Age. Have a great day. Bye!
Thank you. That is all.